All right, everybody. We're going to get started. Sorry it's a little behind, but we're just getting acclimated. It's all good. We're still going to have some fun. So I'll do a quick background of myself. Look at Tanisha's over there tearing up that piece. That's my sister. I'm sorry. I saw that in the corner of my eye. I had to call her out. That's little brother, big sister dynamic. But so a quick background of myself and how I got to this point is standing in front of you guys, helping to facilitate your self-publishing trajectory, goals, intentions, whatever, what have you. So we have someone coming in. Hello, come on in. It's like traffic school. It's like traffic school detention.
Nobody else is brave enough to do that.
So how I got started, when I was a young kid, I had aspirations and dreams of playing basketball. Georgetown University, there was nothing better than Georgetown. In the NBA, even though I was a big Jordan fan, I secretly liked the New York Knicks because they were the bad guys. So I grew up as kind of like somewhat of like a basketball prodigy. My father, big-time basketball player in town, local legend, did a lot of great things. But it was my mother. I'm going to feature my mother today, Miss Jackie Price. When I thought, I was going to go to the NBA and make mega millions and do all these things, my mom definitely encouraged that, but she also spotted a second gift I had, and that was my writing. So she would say, you have a gift of writing, Marcus. You gotta write. So again, my tunnel vision was on Georgetown being the next Allen Iverson. So I got to 8th grade, and I had a teacher, Mrs. Welch. And I think it was I don't think it was an AP English class or just an English class. But we had to write on a topic on indigenous folks of the Southwest. So I turned in this paper, and she immediately questioned it. She asked if I wrote this or not. So I said, well, yeah, I wrote it, and how do you want me to prove it? So she said, well, tomorrow in class, you'll do a live writing where you have to write about another topic, and we'll judge from there. So me being a very competitive, spirited person, I said, well, just let me bring some of my other peers from my other classes to see that I'm going to do as I say I'm going to do. Like, this is who I am. I can write. So she set it up. She gave me about 30 minutes, and I wrote on this topic. I turned it in. She's standing there. She, had the proverbial look with the glasses on the nose. And she says, this is amazing. I'm sorry. You should go to university, high school. So I said, okay, thanks. The pleasure is mine. So my following year, and this is like a dichotomy of how you can encourage a kid and how you can discourage a kid. So the next year I had Mr. Goldsmith, one of my favorite teachers ever, an English teacher. And so throughout the year, he would encourage me. So at the end of the year, he gave me a book entitled Native Son by Richard Wright. And so he said, take this book home, read it. I think you'll enjoy it. So I took it home. I read it. I loved it so much. I looked up other books by this author, and I found a book entitled Black Boy. So I read that as well. So when I came back my sophomore year, I asked him, I said, hey, Mr. Goldsmith, why did you give me that book? It was great, but why me? Why did you single me out? And he said, because I see him and you and him. You could write one day like that. So again, I'm 14, 15 years old. I'm like, hey, man, I'm going to the league. I'm going to play basketball. That's cool. So I continued on. I still talk to Mr. Goldsmith to this day. He was my senior English teacher as well. He moved I think they called it blocks, where he had like freshman, sophomore, senior. So by the time I was a senior, he was in that block, and so I got to have him again as an English teacher. And so he continued the encouragement. So fast forward, I go to college, and I'm procrastinating. I'm turning in, papers like late. I could write a 10-page paper at midnight, and it was due the next morning, and I'd turn it in and get an A or a B. So I had another professor, a lady, her name was Mrs. Sullivan, and she pulled me aside. She said, listen, you're able to write pretty freely, but I know you're not really trying that hard. Once you try hard for me, once you do a couple of outlines, rip up the first couple drafts, and then turn in that paper. So I said, I don't got time for that. I want to go to the rec center and play ball, or, you know. So I followed through and I did it, and she sat me down and she said, the reason I wanted you to do this is because I wanted you to show what hard work and talent looks like. And that's something I had applied to basketball, but I hadn't cared about anything as much as basketball to apply it to writing. Or not cared about anything. There's plenty of things I cared about, but something that I followed as a dream. So I said thank you. So after that, I get hired at my first like real job, and I was an independent living specialist. So I didn't make it to the probationary period. I'll just keep it, 100, as we say. Like, I didn't make it. I was terminated. So I wrote this scathing letter to the CEO. I said I was wrongfully terminated. I didn't get sufficient training. All of these things. So the CEO actually called me in, and he said, hey, I can't give you your job back. It's the policy. Just you're a good person, you're a good worker, you just didn't do what you're supposed to do to make it past the probationary period. I said, okay. He said, but have you ever considered a path in writing? I said, what do you mean? He said, I read this, what you wrote me, it was great. You should go to law school or something, or you should write books. Again, I'm thinking about keeping the lights on. Man, I don't want to write no books right now. Just, can I get a job? So went past that. So I still developed an affinity and a love for writing. So I would write poetry. I'd write short stories. I always had an imagination. And so I would just accumulate these scrolls and scrolls of writing. So I kept going, kept, jobs, careers, whatever. I got fired a couple more times. And then I had to realize I'm not the type of person that can fit in a box. I can't sit down and do a 9 to 5. I got to be able to. My favorite movie of all time is The Shawshank Redemption. And there's a quote that says, hey, Andy Dufresne he was a bird that wasn't meant to be caged. That's my favorite character, my favorite movie. I identify wholeheartedly with it. So that was me, and that's how I was able to simultaneously free myself and forgive myself for not fitting into that status quo of a 9 to 5. Anybody else who does that, hey, that's good. I'm not knocking it. This is just me. So fast forward to 2020. So all these years I've been writing and writing and writing. People have been telling me, hey, you need to write. So along the way, I met this guy. He's one of the most annoying and most doggedly loyal people I've ever met. His name's Mike Luke. And a couple of people, you guys know him. So he's a journalist. He reached out to me to do a story about my father and his high school state championship basketball team. And so we became immediate friends. And somehow, some way, we were texting each other. We text each other a lot. And so he said, hey, man, do you write? And I said, a little bit, I dabble. He said, no, I can tell through the text messages, your verbiage and your transitional sentences, just everything, like you are a born gifted writer. You need to publish. I said, well, I don't know how to publish. So I just kept it going. So 2020 comes, and Mike Luke told me just to keep writing. So I showed him a piece of my writing, and he was like a night owl. He never called me in the mornings or anything. So one morning he called me at 5 a.m. He said, I looked over this writing that you did, and you need to send it to the New York Times, you need to send it to the New Yorker, all these. I said, I don't know how to do that. He said, just be like me, just be annoying, just send stuff. So I did that. I did that, and I must have sent like 50 letters to different publications across the country. Didn't get anything back, but one editor contacted me and said, you have a gift, here's what you need to do, contact a couple people, publish. So I still kind of procrastinated. So go a little further, we're in 2020, the George Floyd incident happens. So I went on a thumb rant on Facebook. I talked about how upset and irate I was about it. So a local photographer, Kathleen Dreyer, reached out to me And she said, I'm doing this piece. I'm a photographer. I'm doing this piece called Voices of Race, and I want to feature you. I want to take your picture, and I'd like to put it with your writing if you can convert it to an essay. I said, sure, I can convert it to an essay now and send it to you tonight. So I did that, and she contacted me 72 hours later, and she said, it's gotten like 20,000 impressions. So essentially it went viral. So that scared me, because I said 20,000 people saw what my thoughts are, what I'm, my emotions about this seismic societal event. Where do I go with this now? But my internal voice said, you can't run from your gifts anymore. You have to figure it out. So I went back to a couple of those people that I had the privilege of meeting, and I just asked questions. I asked questions. And I figured out how to publish a book because I had amassed somewhat of a pretty big following from that essay that I had produced, and I had the picture and everything. I published my first book in 2021 entitled My Train is on Schedule. And it's a mere 90 to 100 pages. It's poems. How I speak about it is it reflects the tapestry of the human experience. So within that spectrum, you got love, you got politics, you got relationships, you got nature, you got spirituality. Everything is in there, so there's something for everybody. Within 48 hours, it was a #1 bestseller on Amazon. So from there again, I said, wait a minute, this is a little overwhelming. Maybe this is a fluke. 3 months later, I published From the Observer to the Observed, which was inspired by one of my cousins. He told me, now that you've gotten out there, you're no longer the observer, you're being observed by other people. So you have to move a little different. So I published another book, same length, same tapestry of human experience, trapped in the form of a poetry book, and this became a bestseller within 48 hours. So I said, now I got it. I said, now I know what I need to do. From there, I decided to challenge myself. So my following book, I produced, it's called The Algorithm of a Culture. And it's an AR-15 with a pencil extending from the barrel, which goes back to the connotation of the pen is mightier than the sword. But now the sword is gun. The violence that's in this country, in this world, that's pervasive and kind of eroding at the spirit of our planet. So what do we have to do to offset that? We have to write about it. So that's what I did. But the thing that was different about this, I said I'm not going to put it on the major book distribution platforms like Amazon or Barnes & Noble. I'm going to put it out independently. I'm going to write it, edit it, package it, distribute it, everything. And I'm going to sell 100 exclusive copies for $100 each. It took me 30 days to sell them all. So from there, I said I'm going to create Teach One Publishing. I got an LLC, and I said I'm going to help people now get their dreams out as far as their testimonials, their business aspirations, because along the way, a lot of people, I probably got the question probably 4 or 5 times a week at the time was, how do I publish a book? How do I publish a book? And I would go to people individually, but after a while I realized I didn't have the bandwidth to meet with everybody one by one. So I said, okay, I'm going to start to develop a course book. I'm going to do these workshops. I'm going to release ebooks and facilitate the steps for everybody else who wants to write a book. So that's how Teach One Publishing came about. Fast forward, this is a year ago, 2024. I have a bunch of essays that I've written. So I went to Egypt in 2023, at the end of 2023, with my lovely partner here, Fiona. And I met this artist on the internet, on Instagram. He goes by the name Shadrach. He's in Accra, Ghana. And interestingly enough, how the universe works, her mother spent a lot of time in Accra, Ghana, growing up. They grew up there, her family. So this artist, we met each other online. He does these amazing paintings, portraits. So I reached out to him. I said, hey, I just came back from Egypt. I got this iconic photo where I'm jumping up in the air and the pyramids are behind me. Can you render this into a photo or a painting? I want to put it as my next cover for my book. So I did The Return of the Observer, and it's a book of essays. And here I am from Shadrach. You know, he's gonna send me the actual painting pretty soon, so I'm gonna put that in my home office. But so that was that. So you notice I was kind of giving, this was all by design. I was producing smaller books, bite-sized books, appetizers as I call them, because I had some other stuff that is long novels, are long novels. I was just kind of testing the readers, the market. So it brought me to this year. I completed a legacy book. It's about my two ballyhooed prodigies locally here in Tucson, Arizona, from this neighborhood that we're sitting in right now. They grew up here. They got here by way of the Black migration. So one was from Arkansas, Gary, Indiana, here. The other was from Monroe, Louisiana, came here in the 60s, and they met up at Tucson High. They won a state basketball championship at Tucson High. They went on to become these just playground legends here in Tucson. They went and were All-Americans, but they took divergent paths after that. And they remained rooted in their bond, and they became legendary as a backcourt. So those two men, number one is my father and his best basketball friend, his backcourt mate, Hoagie Simmons. So I wrote a sports, it's like a novel biography. It's entitled The Backcourt. And this one is 345 pages. So I gave everyone the appetizer. I call this my magnum opus thus far, because I got a lot of works coming down the pike. But now we're in this stage. We go from bite size to Big Mac. You know, so, and along the way, adopting the approach as an entrepreneur, I was looking at this in my mind as far as, hey, if someone sees me online, they can say he has a whole catalog of books. You know, it's akin to someone who's a musician, and they say, hey, I've produced 11 albums, and I'm touring on my own. If a record label comes to that person, that musician has the power to negotiate what you're offering that may not be sufficient. I can do this on my own. So that's my approach. That's the other side. So that's me. Also along the way, I figured out how to do notebooks and produce them. This is Shadrach. He did a portrait of me. I always thought it was cool, like when I watched like the movies, like the bad guys, where they always had a portrait of themselves, like up. So I wanted to do that and put it on a notebook. And you know, here's an entrepreneurial approach. You can say, hey, I've gone to schools and say, you know, it's August, school's coming back in. These are great for kids, and you know, sell them by the bundle. The other one, oh, and I put a slogan on it: love is the panacea, the cure-all. That's what I always remember. That's what came to me as a download during the pandemic, when everything looked like it was just haywire. So now that we're in the state we are now in the world, I still, you know, speak that to myself. But the second notebook, and I'm gonna embarrass you now, Mom. The second notebook, it has my parents on it. That's the one I put in front of everything. I like to think that, look, see my dad, here we go, Delano right here. He's late, come on in here. Come sit down. Yeah. There's chairs over there. There's pizza, lemonade if you want to grab some. The chairs in the back. Yeah, remove your hat when you come in the building too. So the second notebook, it has my parents on it. So I'd like to think that, you know, that was around the time I was made, or I came to, you know, the Most High decided on them to bring me here. Hey, Dad, you know that's Brian Gardine. Yeah, my dad coming in and disrupting. Yeah. So This brings me to the part of the beginning of self-publishing. So I wanted to pose a question. Where do you think you can start as a writer? Where? Well, an activity, a tactic. How can you start as a writer?
Brainstorming, of course, to the pad or even on the phone.
Yep.
Brainstorming to the notes, and just starting from there.
That's right. Anybody else?
Being a reader.
Reader, yes. Here's a tidbit or word of advice with being a good writer. This is one of my secrets. I learned if you're an avid reader, that can make you a good writer. And it doesn't stop there. What I used to do, and I learned this from my father, he built his vocabulary off of the Reader's Digest. So I built it off of during spelling tests growing up. One time I bombed a spelling test. I can still see all those red checks. And again, circling back to my competitive nature, I said, there was this girl named Valerie, and she laughed at my paper. And I said, you're going to pay for that. So for every time after that, I studied. I spent an inordinate amount of time preparing myself, and I always got high marks on my spelling tests. But along the way, I started to accumulate an extensive vocabulary. So that's the second part of being an avid reader, and then the vocabulary. That makes you a good writer. That's the disciplinary part of it. The other part, it might be, given by the universe, innate or whatever, but you can write with either or both. I tend to pull from both, I believe. So what I just posed as a question, you can start, and it connects to what I just said about these notebooks. How you start as a writer, the inception is largely predicated upon a notebook. A notebook. It's as simple as that. So if you have an idea, if you want to make a cookbook, you grab a notebook and you start to jot down ideas. What would you put in the cookbook? Would you put baking stuff, pies and cakes? Would you put, like my mom makes the sweetest of greens ever, So would you put that, so, and to, this is a Mother's Day special, sir, in the back, you got to behave now. Yeah. So this part of the presentation, I call it my mother's greens because it's made with love, it's free, and it nourishes the family. Now the next part, that's going to be the meal. We'll get to that part. But notebook. There's two parts of a story. Everyone has a testimonial, right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 12 testimonies. That's 12 legacies. So in order to create a story, you draw from that testimony. Now it can be direct or it can be vicarious if you have an imagination. I pull from both, my personal experience and vicarious, what I've seen from my social milieu, from what I've watched in the world. It's imagination. Yes, sir.
You talked about, having a notebook and place it on a notebook. I have an analogy. I know your mother's looking. I have an analogy. When, I've talked to you from when you were a little boy about the statue of David, about Greek mythology and Roman mythology. When Michelangelo constructed that statue out of a block of marble that had been discarded. And what he said with all the masterpieces that he created was that his job was to free the image from the marble. How do you get the story out of the head onto the paper and the book?
That's right. You have to free it. And to piggyback off of that, we always talk about Miles Davis. My dad's a huge Miles Davis fan. And one time I was watching some YouTube videos or a documentary or something, and this is something that I relate to as a writer. This is something I plan to do for my entire life. A reporter asked him, where does the music come from that he plays? And he said it's in his head all the time. when he's talking to people, when he's walking down the street. I wholeheartedly identify with that because if I'm having a conversation with any of you, I could take that conversation and go and write something about it. And it's always going on. You can ask Fiona. We can be talking about something and I'll turn away and I'll start writing, or I'm on my phone and she's thinking, well, what are you doing on your phone all the time? I'm not a consumer on my phone. I'm an avid searcher of information and ways to apply what I want to do. So that never turns off. So that's just something. But to start from a journal, you can go from there. You don't have to be a Pulitzer Prize writer. You can be a beginner, a novice, but you just start with putting pen to pad from your thoughts to free your ideas. That's all it starts with. The other side, if you're running a business or you're a business person, as an entrepreneur, you want to write and position yourself as an authority. So when you go to a business conference or a symposium, you can stand up in front of people and say, hey, this is what I'm offering. I have this manual. And it's a step-by-step booklet to guide you into the millions that I'm making or how we want to trade and negotiate. So that's how I divide the two columns. Testimonial, and then there's an entrepreneurial side. Thank you, Dad. Can you close? Can you close that door, Dad? Dad, can you close that door? He's out there socializing. He's supposed to be helping me. He's making the disruption worse. I said, you out there socializing, you supposed to be cutting the noise off. Yeah, man, that's strike number 2 now. So from there, you want to determine a genre that you'd like to jump into from your notebook. So if you write poetry, write your poems in that journal. Write them. You know, if they don't look as great, keep writing them. From there, you know, you can write essays. You can literally journal about your feelings and turn that into a book. So from there, you want to get what they call beta readers, friends, family, anyone to read your journal or your notebook. You read that, you have that looked upon, and then you want to meticulously continue to comb through your own writing. Your own writing, that's a self-edit. And your peers reading your manuscript or journal or notebook, that's an edit as well. The next stage is the official editing. And I'll be honest, editing the price for editing can be kind of exorbitant, very expensive. My first book, and these are things that I can share with you all. You should have been here, Dad. I plugged the book. With my first book, like I said, it's a mere 90 to 100 pages. It's very impactful, but a shorter book. So I figured when I got this edited, you know, it'd be maybe a couple dollars. Do you know how much? Anyone want to take a stab at how much editing costs for this book? 500, you said? 300. 300?
2,500 to 3,000.
No, it was in the middle, 800. Oh. How many errors or whatever did I have? I had 5. Like an indentation, a couple grammatical errors, and a misspelling. And what I didn't know, I sought out the big fish. I Googled editing, and I went to a guy. He did a great job. We are colleagues, and you know, we've remained in contact. But I went online, and he was a guy in New York. He was an established writer and editor. His name's Sean Singer. And I said, hey, you know, you do editing? I emailed him. He said, oh, yeah, just send over the document. And he sent it back to me with the invoice that almost knocked me on my heels. So, but I was so determined. This is another thing. If you're going to do this, don't let anything financial or hardship or whatever going on in your life deter you, because that's what I wasn't going to allow. So I paid him the $800, and I said, I'll get it back tenfold, you know. So something that can help, you know, as far as the editing process, when you get to that stage, what I learned later, go to Pima Community College or to the university and ask if they have any TAs that are willing to edit your manuscript. And you can get it for free or a nominal fee. So that's what I did on the next one. I didn't pay $800. I paid maybe $8, you know. So editing. You know, they're going to focus on fixing grammar, spelling, formatting issues, ensure clarity and consistency, make sure the message flows from chapter to chapter, and eliminate repetition or irrelevant parts. So next what we have is the interior file. The interior file is basically what is on your notebook converted to a manuscript, and these are it becomes the pages within the book. So you have the title, you have the like a dedication, a foreword, table of contents, all of the pages within the book. That's the interior file. On the outside, or I have this picture of myself, an author synopsis, the cover image. That's the exterior file. So when you join those together, that brings you to having a book, but it's on file. And before, let me back up. We went through the editing of the interior file. For the exterior file, we all have friends that are artists or creatives. If you don't, they're available plenty online. You can go.
Tell about the image on the front of the book, how you came to that.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So patience. So hey, man, that's number 3 now. So if you know an artist or a creative within the community or, you know, elsewhere, it's as simple as reaching out to them, rendering an image from your imagination or your personal life experience, like this one, and you have them create it, send it to you, and part of your exterior file when you upload the manuscript is you place that on there, and then obviously you have you have graphic designers, you have people that are part of the editing. They edit this, so they can put on, you know, my name, the graphics, make sure the alignment is correct. You have your author photos, your, you know, description of the book. I put my, you know, Teach One Publishing label or brand or logo on here. I put my social media platforms, my website. So that's what you do for the interior and exterior file. I feel like I got lost in the sauce a little bit, but does anybody have questions with more detail with how to render a cover file? Yes, ma'am.
Where did your exterior file come from? I remember you talking about that because I thought it was very.
With the first book?
Yes.
Okay, so the title, My Train is on Schedule, that was like a note to myself. I felt like, well, maybe I waited a long time. People have been telling me to write for all these years. And I said, no, it's time is now, you know. So my train is on schedule. There's a guy who, one of my favorite lyricists, his name is Jay Electronica. And he would always say that, but when I delved deeper into him saying it, it came from Muhammad Ali during one of his victorious rants. He said, you know, I'm this and that. I've done this. My train is on schedule. So that's where I got that from. That's the title of the book, and I live by that. There's a picture of an African American male, and there's a train coming through, you know, like his imagination, his mind. And so that was the reflection of the first rendering of the book. You know, so Just be creative. You know, we go into Barnes and Noble or something, and we say, wow, where did these covers come from? They came from someone's imagination. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. It's just like the Notebook. You know, my friend Brian, our childhood friend, he's been all over. He lived in Chicago for a number of years. He's been in rooms with some of the biggest hip hop stars and singers in the world, and he sees that, you know, in the booth. You know, he's gone in and spoken his words, his lyrics, and he's seen people sing and rap. He's been in videos. So he can tell you also that it all comes from the creation of your mind, and then you just render it to a physical, tangible object. So don't limit yourself. Anything that you see, I got this from Steve Jobs, anything that you see throughout the world was created by somebody. You know, this was created, someone's thought was, well, how can I put something that can have a screen and we all can watch it, you know? And I like to think that the ultimate, you know, higher power or being, whatever, did the same with us. So it's really not that hard. Any questions with the exterior and interior file? No? Okay, we'll move along. Let me see. Book cover. Interior. Oh yeah, these are just some tools that can help you. Tools, and I will give everyone a copy. I'll email everyone a copy of this part of the presentation. So whatever you don't catch, what I've told you, you know, with notes, I will send you this and you can follow it step by step. Some tools for editing or to format your interior and exterior files are Microsoft Word, obviously, Adobe InDesign, Redsea, and Atticus.
How do you spell red?
Redsea, it's Reedsy.
Thank you.
And what'd you say, Brian?
Adobe, what was that?
Adobe InDesign. So Adobe space and then capital I, lowercase n, capital D, design.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say them again? I'm sorry.
Yes, no problem. Microsoft Word, Adobe InDesign, Redsea, and Atticus. Mm-hmm.
How do you spell Atticus?
Atticus.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I like the phonetics of Atticus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't
well,
know.
you never know how it could be spelled.
Yeah.
Somebody could have switched it up.
Yeah. So we got those. Let me see. Design your book cover. I keep notes, you know, just in case I just want to cover everything. All right, once you have both files, your interior file, exterior file, you're basically ready to upload to what is called Amazon KDP. And Amazon KDP stands for Kindle Direct Publishing. I wait for everybody to, I see some pens scribing. This is Amazon's self-publishing platform, and it's free. It's free. Now, on the back end, they will package, distribute, help you promote, you know, if you want to do that. But they get royalties for the packaging and distribution. It's not a whole lot, but, you know, there are ways to get those back as well that I explained. So it's kdp.amazon.com. You'll go there. You'll put your information in to create an account, a profile. You'll click Create a New Paperback Book. You enter the title, subtitle, author name, and description. You upload the manuscript, which is the interior and exterior file. You choose the print size, paper color, which is usually cream or white, and the pricing. You determine the pricing of it. So you can make it $2.99 or $299, and I've seen both, and I've done both. Anyone? Oh, I thought someone was saying something.
Oh, I would.
Yes.
Can I add something?
Yes.
I know a little bit about KDP, and so one thing that I would add that's a really great feature of self-publishing on Amazon is that when you're entering in all the things that you just said, one of the things that you'll be entering in also is keywords.
Yes. Yes.
And so the thing that I personally love the most about self-publishing on Amazon is that if you choose your keywords very well, then it actually ends up working like a search engine
Yes.
for you. So let's say you're writing your personal memoir, or you're writing a nonfiction book about some specific topic, whatever it is, you put those keywords in, and then when someone goes to Amazon and they're looking for a memoir that's about X, Y, and Z, then you will come up in that search.
Yep. It's called search engine optimization. So, and when I spoke with you online and you shared your poetry book, that's how I found your book on Amazon. Some of those keywords popped up.
Oh, I don't have a poetry book.
The healing one, the essay, or
No, that wasn't me.
you did the we're talking about the audiobook.
Yes.
Yes, that was on Amazon.
Yes.
Or okay,
I have
yeah.
3 books.
Yes.
Yeah, and they have audiobooks. But no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways.
Okay. Yeah. I got you. I got them mixed up.
I'm sure you talked to a lot.
But yes, the she's very correct with that. The keywords are optimal, and it prompts you automatically to that. It's not something you have to search. You have to do that part in order to get through, everything being uploaded. So it's called search engine optimization. You want to have those keywords in there. I think I was going to poetry because I was going back to my first book, because I remember those keywords, and I wrote I think it gave me African American poetry or nature and all these things, because it was pulling from the topics of the book. So search SEO, as it's called, search engine optimization, is extremely important. So we have the after you've chosen your size, your paper color, cream or white, pricing, it takes you through some of the royalties. So if you have if you want to sell a book for $10, I think it's a 60-40 split, where you get 60, they get 40. So you sell one book, $10, you get $6, they take $4. But you determine the price. So I think that's kind of something that's pretty neat. You also, from there, they give you an opportunity to purchase for much cheaper. So if you have your book set at $10, they have author copies where you can purchase a copy of your own book for $2. So I get copies of those books, and then I sell them for $10. So that's how I get my royalty back. So it goes even beyond. So I see a lot of, I've seen a lot of authors online really complaining about a lot of things that are going on with Jeff Bezos and, we're anti-Amazon. I say, hey, that's fine. They're still the largest book distribution platform in the world, and you can reverse that to where you're able to profit and feel better about it. So author copies, that's what I go to. From there, you merely, you go to the previewer tool where they'll go through everything, see the format and everything. Once you're satisfied, you hit publish, and within 72 hours, your book is live and on sale globally. You can determine where the book's going to be sold. I've had people order my books, like my buddy Shadrach from Ghana, he's ordered copies. I've had people from Pakistan order copies. I've had people from Chicago, Illinois order copies. So that's what I mean by Amazon being the biggest book distribution platform in the world, where you have to be able to leverage it and take advantage of it, because the reach is much further than if I came in here with all of my books and I said I'm going to try to sell or give or whatever to each and every one of you. I can only get one person at a time, or maybe this room. How I scale with Amazon, I can go to Facebook. This is what I do. I have 7 different social media platforms. So I'll go on one of those and I'll say, this book is on Amazon. So that allows me to cast the net much larger than a one-by-one or a smaller group setting. That's part of like, the marketing and everything. So once you do that, you hit publish. You can publish your book. There are 3 different ways you can publish a book. One is ebook version, Kindle. So that is, a lot of people like to receive information on their devices, whether it's a computer, a laptop, a telephone. If you're flying on a plane, you can download a book. My train is on schedule, and you can read it by merely scrolling. The second part is paperback. Some people are, they like to have something tangible. Me personally, I love books. I love the smell of them. I like to put notes. I like to put bookmarks. That's how I'd like to receive books. The third is audiobook, like we just discussed. You can have it done, because some people are auditory learners. They're visual learners, they're auditory learners, so that's a way that a lot of people like to receive books as well, is audiobook version. Another secret that I figured out quite quickly, my first book, I released them in all formats. So you can get any of my books, paperback, ebook, or audiobook, because I know friends that are truckers, and they don't have time to read books. So they would ask me, hey, do you have this on audio? Yeah, I'm recording them. So they have access to them. I have certain people, they don't want anything but the paperback. It's available. Some people are on the move all the time. They don't like to, they're minimalists. They don't want to have 50 books in their room, so they'll download it on their phone. So I would advise that you have it in those three avenues. And that's what allowed me to reach more of a stand of a bestseller, because I made myself available to a much bigger audience. Again, just like if you know someone who's an artist and creative, I pretty much ingratiated myself within a lot of the circles and people within the artist and creative community here in Tucson, Arizona, so I have access to a lot of different people. I know a guy, he's an engineer, so he works, with music. And one day I said, hey, you think I could, record my audio book? Actually, a friend of mine said, hey, this is so-and-so, he's an engineer, you should do your audiobooks with him. So further down the line, I got in contact, we became friends. I've done all of my audiobooks with him for more of a feasible fee, because just like with the editing prices, where I said that was $800 for 90 pages, I was going on my way to, it's called Illusion Studios here in town. And they do audiobooks, but they've had award-winning musicians record and everything in there. So I was set up to do my first book, and they charged me like $3 grand. So I said, oh man, I'd rather speak it to my phone, and so whether it was serendipity or just doing good and getting good back, paying it forward, I was able to meet my friend who's an engineer, and he charges me $150 per book. So that's also a resource if anyone is interested. I have access to people like that. I can send you their information, because I don't believe in being a gatekeeper. I believe if you have something that you want to do, you can share it, and the universe will compensate you when necessary. So so that is the first part of the presentation. I know we started a little later.
I have a quick question for you.
Yes, please.
I appreciate the cost discussion about editing audiobooks. What about through KDP, that print and distribution model that you offer?
Mm-hmm.
How much is that kind of upfront from a cost?
The print distribution?
Yeah.
It's pretty feasible. It's not bad.
Is it baked into the sales?
Yes, yes, and that's how Amazon will get their cut, so to speak. But I don't. I like to get paid and then distribute my money from there. I don't like things. I don't have anything automated, you know. So that's just me. I learned that from my dad. But
So what you're asking is like, what's your upfront cost?
Yeah, I guess.
yeah. Well,
Trying to understand the cost. of
well,
what we're getting into.
with Amazon, everything is free. There's no cost. You just have to take care of the interior and exterior file. The cost up front is merely the editing. That's what you're going to pay to have the manuscript prepared for that. But once you have everything put together, Amazon doesn't charge a dime. They just get their royalties. Once you sell your first book, like I said, the model of $10, 60-40 split, they get their $4, you get $6. And I think it's paid out every 3 months. So yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Where do you find people to compile the files correctly? Because isn't there
To format it.
format?
Yes. To format it, you can usually find someone who's tech savvy and does something like that if you have a friend. But what I do, here's another resource. There's something called Fiverr. It's Fiverr. And on Fiverr, you can go in and type book format. And you can get people to format your book for, I'd say like $60, you know, because it's people all over the world. You know, you can outsource. So you go in and put that in, and someone in India will do it for you and have it within 48 hours. Whereas opposed if you try to find someone here, because the currency is different. So they will provide that service at a much cheaper rate, and it's quality work. I don't know anything about formatting the inside of, you know, it looks like, oh, these words are just put here. No, it's alignment. They have to be, you know, certain words aligned. They do that. They can do that for you. So that's a short, you know, shortcut, so to speak. But Fiverr.com, they do a great job. There are freelancers at your fingertips. So you want to do that for format. Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Mayo.
Question I'm developing now. With me, like Linda said, I'm a reporter, but I like, you know, you have so many different angles to go at. So for me, then my mind gets racing. So what would you recommend for me to do? Like she said, start just recording. You know, but you have a suggestion.
So like you're saying, like what you want to write about, you're trying to organize like the ideas and thoughts? Yeah, that would be perfect to record yourself. You know, you could say something like, you know, when I remember, where are you from? Are you born and raised in Tucson, Arizona?
Tucson.
Okay. I was going to say like, let me see. I pulled from Jackson, Mississippi. So when my grandfather was here, hey, you know, when I was a boy in Jackson, Mississippi, he could put that on a recorder and just tell his story and then come back and listen to that and transcribe it. That's a good way. Or you could have someone, you know, like your son. He could come over and say, Mom, tell me about, you know, this, that, or the third, and he could record you and write it down for you. And then from there, it's just organization.
There's a website called otter.ai,
Otter.
OTTER.ai, where you it will change any audio or video into transcription.
Yes.
So if you've taught a class, so like if you had an audio recording of this class and you wanted Otter AI to make a transcript so you could turn it into a written article or something or whatever. Or you could just talk into your device and tell stories.
Talk to text, yep.
Or you could just be talking with your friend and hit record, and you can transfer that file. Or you can even just open Otter AI on your phone, the app, and it'll save you a step because then you can just record right on Otter AI.
Yes.
And then within 5 minutes, you'll see the written transcription of it.
That's very.
Yeah, yeah. And always remember, Google is your friend. So if you say, hey, is there a talk to text, app or something, Google it. It'll tell you the answer. But the information is one thing, the work is the next. Because we all have access to the information, but very few will apply themselves and do the work. And that's my secret of kind of getting ahead and around. Like I said about scaling, during this workshop, I'm offering the information, and I'm simultaneously, I have a videographer, a talented videographer here, who is putting this on film, and I will upload that to YouTube, and people all over the world will be able to see it.
I have a
So.
question to piggyback off Ms. Mayola. So sometimes when you're trying to organize your thoughts, where does the story come from? And that's, I think that's a challenge too. Like the writer's block, you have all this great content, but then what if you need help organizing it into your book?
I could write the first paragraph for this woman. She's from the legendary family.
Yeah.
Her mother was friends with your grandmother, my mother. She's got a very rich history.
There you go. So you get my dad to come over and hear me. Don't let him get away with it either. Yeah. But and I also wanted to say thank you to Jeb. He's wonderful. That's his name. Give him a round of applause. I'm very grateful that I was introduced to him because he does amazing work, and we're going to be doing a lot of work together. To come back to you, Tanisha, can you expound upon what you were saying about sometimes you can't organize it?
So, well, I think about like you probably have a million stories that you could write, and then you start to put these things, record them, and brainstorm and write them down. But then, how do you formulate your story? Like, okay, you have your poetry book, so you wrote your poetry, but then you went on to write your book. So I think all of us have lots of things we think about writing.
Okay. I'll give an example. So I said how this is my legacy / magnum opus thus far, my writing. This started when I was probably 3 years old. Subconsciously, I believe I knew that, but growing up, I didn't know that. So there's an accumulation, a gathering of thoughts and experiences in this 340-some page book that, eventually I had to get to the point where it was the impeccable time and the perfect timing to offer it. So it brought it together, and you're in this book. Your birth is in this book, and growing up, some of your accomplishments of your daughter, my niece. How I started, once I realized a long time ago I was going to write it, but I knew what the type of undertaking it would be. So just like we just discussed with Miss Mayola, I interviewed Dad, I interviewed Mr. Simmons, Hoagie, and I interviewed so many other people with my phone, with this very phone right here. Hey, tell me about Monroe, Louisiana. Tell me about Gary, Indiana, the Great Migration, the crack epidemic, gang propaganda during the 90s, because that was huge when myself and Brian were growing up. We didn't understand that, and this is just some information I'm offering, we didn't understand in the 90s when we saw movies like Colors or Boys in the Hood or, things like that. Dale, he was during that time, not to age him out, but, but we didn't understand that we were being somewhat groomed for gang culture, because we thought it was cool, to put these colors on and, shoot these guns or whatever. That was propaganda by the media. So, and it was the same with, so I had to, during those years, my father was at Catalina High School, and that was prevalent, so that was part of what I weaved into the book during that era, how he took on sort of a Joe Clark, persona, because he went into a school that needed a strong black figure. So you put that with, the 80s crack epidemic where Mr. Simmons, like I said, they took a divergent paths. He went towards that path. and he was involved in that crack epidemic in those different ways. That's how you put together your story. So I had to go back and recall a lot of memories from when I was a child in the back seat with, my father and Mr. Simmons and all these things that I saw. And I interviewed these different people, and I just made notes. It's like the movies you see where the FBI, they have like these circles and the spider limbs coming out when they're trying to put a case together. That's how it was with me with this book, and I broke down the eras. So in my outline, it was, okay, the Great Migration. Our father comes from a family of 10. It started in Arkansas. They went to Gary, Indiana during the Great Migration, and then they came here. Or Hoagie came from Monroe, Louisiana. So it was different eras I broke it down to. So when you read the book, that's a chapter. The next chapter, they're in high school, state champions, ballyhooed, prodigies, basketball legends. They go from there to college. Dad starts a family. He has you. He's with his high school sweetheart. That's how you put those together. Yes, sir.
Yeah, cool question, man. So when you're like beginning to begin on one of your books, do you give yourself a timeline, like a deadline?
No.
To complete it?
Nah, don't do that. Because if you give yourself a timeline, so if I say I'm gonna do chapter 1, it's Monday, I need to finish this by Sunday. I might rush something that may need to be in there. And it's like analogous to cooking. If you get in there and say, I got 30 minutes to cook this soul food, you might leave out some pepper or some salt or some lemon that might be the most integral part of it. So what I do, I got all of the interviews, the notes for this book a year before, and my father can corroborate this. Then one day I said, okay, I'm ready, and I sat down and I just tackled it. It was every day. Fiona can attest to that. She saw me. I say, all right, good seeing you today. Kiss, hug, goodbye. I'm going into the.
So what you're saying is, like she was saying earlier, say if you have an idea, right? Because I have this happen all the time. You got an idea, you start it, right, and then you start feeling like, let me step away from it, right? So you give yourself enough space to
give yourself that break.
To that, right?
Yeah.
Without having to force it, or just doing something just to say you did it, right?
Yeah, you just put it down. It's akin to, I worked a number of years in behavioral health, and when I would speak with people who were dealing with depression, I would say, it's okay to be in that depression, just don't stay there. Do anything you can to talk about it, release it, catharsis. So that's how I look at writing. Because there's some times I have a million ideas, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna write a book tonight. And I might write 2 words and be stuck there. I can't get nothing out. So that's where you always got to kind of just tuck it in. Okay, I'm gonna put that to bed. Always keep a device, like maybe a device, or if you see me all the time, either got a phone or a notebook, because you never know when those thoughts or that imagination is gonna revisit you. It connects. And so you record it, and then when you get the time to sit down, you can connect them.
So where do you find that fine line where you like, man, it's been a week, it's been 2 weeks? Like, you get what I'm saying? Where's that balance for you personally?
I'll get to the point, okay, I'll give another analogy. It's like if I wake up in the morning and I say, man, I'm tired, I want to hug the bed a little bit. I'm going to hug it so long before that internal voice says it's time to get up. That's what it is with writing. So if I've left it there for a couple weeks, I might come around and say, you know what, let me see what I can revisit here. And I'll go back to it, and if it feels good, then I'll continue it on. But don't put, a time limit, and because I've done that before and it didn't come out as, Yeah. But when you're also in the groove, and you might write something for a week straight, and you come with another idea, something imaginative, add to it. It's, again, being in the kitchen. You making some soul food. You know what? I want to make a cheesecake. Let me jump over here and put that,
Got a question real quick. So how do you do about your chapters? Like, if you're writing a book.
like when to end?
Well, when to end, but you'll be telling your own story. Is it you who's putting like, this is chapter 1 of my story, or is it like a publisher or somebody?
It's me. Yeah. So like if you're writing like if you're telling a story, like with this one, I broke it into eras. So I had to go back like even beyond my father, because it's a lineage, it's legacy. So I had to go to like his grandfather. So that was like a chapter where it's like I cover his inception, before him, his inception, to like childhood, and then the next chapter, he's here in Tucson, he's junior high. And then the third one, like, you know, we play ball, so you break it up into quarters. You know, so this is quarter number 1, it's quarter number 2, halftime.
You know, I'm thinking about the question that I almost said is called his dad. I almost said Phil. Brian just said. There's 3 examples that I think about when you get asked that question. You can't, you're so right, there's no set answer, because, you know, a new pope was just elected, and there's a story about Michelangelo, when he was painting the Sistine Chapel, Pope Julius told him that if he didn't finish that before he passed away, he'd have him thrown off the scaffold. So in that situation, he was on the time limit, he had to. But the 2 of my favorite jazz albums, and Marcus knows this, one, Kind of Blue, that's the leading selling jazz album in history. Miles Davis and Coltrane and the rest of those did that all first take. There was only 1 second take on that. And then Coltrane's album, Of Love Supreme, he separated from his wife. I'm going upstairs, I'm just putting food at the door. He did it in 2 weeks. If you're a jazz aficionado, listen to that album, 2 weeks, Of Love Supreme. So time is relevant.
Right.
Time is relevant. It may be, and Marcus has a creative genius to where, you know, he's able to determine that there's a clock inside.
Yeah.
But it's not cookie cutter. It's all relative to who you are and what your experience is.
And do you do that before you start writing, or like while you're writing, or after you're writing, like
What's
your
that?
chapters?
To determine the chapters? You know, I've tried to do.
Or is it different for every?
It's different for everyone. You know, like with the poetry book, the first one, I play. It just spilled out of me. You know, but the back court, my most recent one, I had such an idea of what I wanted to tell in the story from section to section. It was easier for me to, in the outline, to say, okay, this is going to be chapter 1. And I literally went down. I had probably 14 chapters listed, and I think I ended up with 16. But that's a good way to do it.
Did you go, like after you're done with 1 chapter, did you go back and like add to that one?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah. I went back, or I'd have conversations with some of the people I interviewed, and they would mention something, and I'd go and I'd say, hey, I want to put that in there. But as long as you have the bulk of the material, the body, you know, it's just like a human body. You know, you can change it at any time. You know.
And like when you write, is someone reading? So when you have your draft, someone goes back and reads it and gives you feedback before you actually publish it?
Yes, that's called like a beta reader. So
Yeah,
like,
that's what you're saying.
yeah, like friends and family. That's where I got a lot of my confidence. As I talked about my friend Mike Luke. You know how he would say, hey, you need to write. And originally, you know, the first one was Mom. And then I had a couple other friends that did the same, and then I would just start sharing my work. You and I have had conversations. You know, you have ideas. Send some of your stuff to me or to some of your close friends, and you'll get feedback. And a lot of times you'll think that, oh man, they're gonna shred my stuff to pieces. They won't. People are very encouraging. And you know, if they really love you, they will tell you, hey, maybe this part you should do this or that, or maybe this isn't the place, you know. I have that all the time, you know. Now in my creative journey, I'm fortunate, you know, with Fiona, I'll throw things out and she'll say, oh, okay, well, why don't you think about this? Why don't you? But she also knows that I'm incorrigible in my drive, and sometimes I say, I'm not listening today. I'm going to do what I want to do, you know. So, and she's great in that she acquiesces, and she's wiser than me. And she's, I'm not going to tussle with you, so you do what you want to do, and it comes out the way it comes out. But those are good ways to go about it. Yeah, and that's really the fun of putting together your story. Going back and seeing what you missed, or going back and seeing what you can add to it. And again, we all have a testimony. And you can use your imagination to apply that. Our cousin Bootsy, you know, when I went and gave her a copy of the Backcourt, she was speaking from her teaching experience. And, you know, with certain, you know, privileged kids. And she wrote a story about a childhood story about a kid, one of those kids that really impacted her, a children's book, I should say. And she said, I've been just sitting on this children's book for a long time. I'd love you to take a look at it. And so I said, okay, I'll come back and I'll look over it. And it was great. So sometimes that's all you really need is one person to say, you know what, that was great, you know, because we all have something, you know. And I spend a lot of my time making sure, and Fiona can tell you guys, like, I spend a lot of time just encouraging people. You know, I spend a lot of time encouraging people. But I'm also, I think that comes from, I hit the lottery when I was born because I had two people, my parents, that did that for me. You know, so this is my duty to give back, you know, in that sense. So and encourage others.
Did you ever, think about being in school, we established a writing group so we stayed accountable for our timeline, but that's because it was time-driven writing. But do you ever, have you ever written in a group, like this group of people will come back next Saturday at 2 and we'll write our ideas and we'll exchange ideas? Do you ever, is that something you recommend, or do you do mainly your writing on your own?
I absolutely recommend that. Me, I'm more of a maverick when it comes to my creativity, so I don't really like anyone to, you know, I know what I want to do. You see Fiona's laughing, you know? But by and large, I do encourage that. It's no different from think tank, you know, where you go into a room and you say, hey, this is my idea. This is my idea. What do you think I should put in this chapter? That will facilitate greatly, you know.
So do you offer that?
Yeah, I'm sorry?
Do you offer that?
Absolutely.
Follow up, like she said, expanding it like a think tank, maybe I'll put together and follow up after this.
Yes, yes. I have.
Curriculum.
Yes, I have a sheet I will pass out, or just my notebook. I'll tear some paper, I'll get everyone's email, and I'll follow up, and I'll send what I presented today, the PowerPoint, so you have everything, and any questions you have, you can follow up with me at any time, and I can meet those needs.
I think for me, it'd be good to, like, if you can in the future, like, do a second class just on that, because sometimes it helps pull it out more when you hear other people share their piece.
Yes.
For me, that would be so beneficial, because just sending me stuff, I'm gonna be honest, I said, okay.
Yeah, and I'm glad, and I'm glad.
It really could be pulled out.
And I'm glad you said that. Thank you, because that's how this came about, was people saying, hey, you should have a workshop. So I'm always steeped in my humility to say I can take feedback and advice. So my next workshop will be that. I'll do a think tank, and I'll present it to where people can come in and, you know, they have these boards here, and we can put things up and go about it that way. We can see some of the things, our strengths and weaknesses, and put them together to where you have like a cohort or a network.
Yeah.
So I like that.
For me, that was
Yes.
Do we have a date for that workshop?
With everyone here, yes. Let's do that right now.
I was gonna ask
Which one?
The youngest one.
Jaden or oh,
Jaden.
okay. You don't like to give names out. Jaden.
But
Bamboo.
if you, exactly.
Yes.
That touched me so, and I said, oh God, he's writing about her, and what he's saying is absolutely her.
Yeah.
And she was really little.
What you said? Where I get it from?
Where you got it, how you wrote it, how you shared it, and when I read that, I said, this boy can write pretty well.
Yeah. That's my mom.
There's some books out here.
Yeah,
But
and
I still have that. I still have that.
and I wrote that probably when she was about what, 10, maybe younger.
I think she was,
Yeah, she might have been. I did it for her birthday,
yeah.
and so I just had it. I gave a copy to everybody at her birthday, and it ended up. It's the first poem in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where I got it from, I can't explain that. All I can say is maybe it came through me. I always say that it doesn't come from me; it comes through. I just serve as a vessel, and I'm fortunate that I have that. But it's just maybe my connection to her and the family and the importance of her, being here, how she got here. So that's what allowed me to, it probably influenced the swerve and curve of the pen when I wrote it. But yeah, those are things. Or like the one, the more shorter, impactful one I wrote about you, where I said, how you were served as a spaceship, the portal for me to get here, and all those things. So that comes from the connection, the bond. You carried me for 9 months. So yeah, this ain't about you right now. You can sit down. This is Mother's Day special. Yeah. I see him over there rocking that. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna keep passing that around. The second part of the presentation, I'm not gonna hold you guys because I want to stay punctual. If I say 12 to 2, I hold that because you guys have obligations throughout your life. But the second part, I'll figure out a way. I'll send you a webinar or automated, something that you can see the second part. So we don't have to stay over today. So we can end it here. We can organize this for the next one. And I can get you guys that because I was going to present it, but we'll do that. Any questions?
I don't know, would you say this dives into kind of your platform and promotions and marketing?
No, this side, the first part was how to publish a book. The second part is how to derive multiple streams of income from writing a book. You said you want to hear that?
I said, I want to hear that part.
Yeah. And for that one, I have, I like to do it in person, but I also offer those through webinars. I do live and automated. So with my good friend, Jeb, we'll be doing that. I'll do it from my home office, and I can send it to each and every one of you. So it'll take you through it.